Welcome to the Faith Secure podcast, where we are watchful, prayerful, and prepared. I'm Dr. Michael Brown, and I'm the founder of Faith Secure and the president of MDB Consulting Agency. Each episode, we sit down with experienced security professionals, law enforcement leaders, emergency management personnel, and security practitioners to have real-world conversations about real-world threats facing churches and faith-based organizations today. This podcast is about preparation, leadership, and responsibility, because hope is not a strategy. Now, the title of this week's episode, and I'm excited, is From Facility to Frontline, and it's integrating operations and security in the local church. In many churches, facilities and security operate in parallel, but not together. But what if the strength of your security program depended on how well these two functions integrated? Today, we're talking about what happens when operations and protection align. Today's guest serves as both facility and security director at Westwood Community Church in Excelsior, Minnesota. That dual role provides a unique vantage point because building operations and security oversight often intersect more than churches tend to realize. Jim Tighe's security career began when he created the Westwood Community Church security program over 15 years ago, which has since been used as a blueprint for church security development and structure across the metro area and beyond. As coordinator of Westwood's 40-member security team, Jim oversees training and skills development, holds a permit to carry, and is certified in holster draw skills. He's also a member of a local gun club where he trains weekly. In 2022, Jim spearheaded a groundbreaking multi-organization active shooter live simulation in the Carver County area, and it focused on mega-church vulnerabilities. Working closely with local and regional law enforcement and emergency management teams, the simulation trained his security team as well as emergency and law enforcement personnel from 3 cities with over 150 participants involved. Jim is also a certified verbal judo instructor, a certified Alice active shooter response trainer, and a safety consultant at Kingswood Security. He's also an alumnus of the FBI Citizens Academy for Minnesota and a co-founder and primary instructor for Bold North Judgment Training. Let's welcome Jim Tighe to the podcast. Welcome, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
I am doing great. I'm doing better that you're here.
Okay, there we go.
All right. Without any further ado, Mr. Tighe, you ready to get started?
Let's do this.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, first we're going to talk about the overlap between facilities and security. Serving in both facilities and security, what do you see that many churches miss about the connection between these roles?
Well, by having over all of them, when you're in charge of just facilities, you're looking at really the beautification aspect also of it. I can take the beautification, but also add a security element to say, hey, we can't have these banners hanging here. We can't do this film on the windows because of the security aspect. It's not that I'm over dominant when I do that. I work with them so we can come up with a better solution. And that works on working with your teammates, getting to know them and everything. So if you have to come up with a different idea, there's not so much ownership in there. It's for the betterment of the church overall. And you got to think globally, not just individually per department.
That makes sense, sir. That makes sense. So how does, you kind of touched on it a little bit here, how does building layout influence the security posture of the church?
Oh, boy. When I did just a build out, our last build out was about 8-9 years ago at my Bloomington campus. I made the open one so open so that we can see people coming in. It's better directional, better wayfinding, but it also makes it for a better security aspect because we have true lines sight lines down the hallways,
Hmm.
down to our education wing, down to our kids wing. So it just works hand in hand. This more churches need to focus on that, not just from a facility aspect. But when I was leading that construction, having the insight like that gave me a good insight on that, and
Hmm.
great rapport with that I built over 20 years of working at the church, that they trust me when I bring up these ideas, and
Absolutely.
we work together for that.
Okay. Well, trust is everything in our business. It really is. Okay.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this. Where do operational decisions unintentionally create risk for you?
That one can create it on a couple of multi layers.
Okay.
Is, let's just go back. We just came out of the Christmas season.
Correct.
You know, everybody loves to decorate to the nines just to go to the hilt.
Right.
But you also got to create your sight lines and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
you also got to work together that in case something does happen, how do we work around these things?
Right.
So what we do is we take a look at it from higher perspective, is saying, hey, we can still decorate our church
Hmm.
for the holiday season, but let's keep it practical so it also we're secure. There's not anything that a kid can get into, because you're not even talking, security, you're talking safety also.
There
So you
you
have to
go.
take into play, when you're talking about that, because we have a huge kids ministry, and we have a bunch of trees up, and some of them are plastic ornaments. If one gets broke, it gets broke. That's not the matter. It's
Right.
I don't want them to get cut. I don't want them to get hurt. I don't want them to feel
Absolutely.
bad. So
Right.
that's where that can come in and really work together.
Okay. So that's gonna lead me to my next question. How does maintenance impact safety?
Oh boy. If you don't stay up on maintenance, I mean,
Mhm.
think about it. You have life safety systems, you have fire systems, you have fire extinguisher systems. A lot of them are by code that you got to do, but
True.
it takes a lot of money when I budget for just the life safety of it.
Hmm.
We're to the higher standard in our area. It's called UL. So
Okay.
it takes me 3 days to do my fire system, and I
Wow.
don't prolong that. Every year, I have another company come in and check all of my fire extinguishers.
Okay.
We put up little placards above our fire extinguishers that says it's a fire extinguisher, so everybody knows.
Right.
We do training when my fire extinguishers become out of service. I use them for training, because a lot of people have
Smart.
never done that. So we'll pull the pin, we'll spray, and it's really easy, and they'll feel little more comfortable, you know, with that equipment in case they ever have to use it.
And and I'm going to deviate for a second, Mr. Ties. That's one thing about people. Okay, we have fire extinguishers, but you haven't trained anyone how to use them. Are they trained on the pass system, where
Yes.
pull a pin, aim, squeeze, spray?
Yes.
People don't know.
No, they don't know. And it's not that they're willing, is we assume too much, or they think, oh, the facilities team or security team. Well, that could be a few seconds timeline,
Absolutely.
which is huge.
That
So
matters. That matters.
yes.
Correct. You're correct, sir. So let me ask you this. What's one facility related issue that most directly affects security, in your opinion?
Say that again.
What's one facility related issue that most directly affects security?
Well, I have one right now. We put these funny waves on our windows
Okay.
front to make it look good. I was
Okay.
against it from the beginning, and I got overrode, which
Yeah.
is fine.
It happens.
But they come up to your waist, so I can't see the full individual kind of what's happening outside. So
Ah,
that's where you got to come into that fine line of looking beautification, but what's practicality.
that's true. And that's something I always say is that your building or your physical plant can either strengthen or weaken your security, and you
Oh,
have to work around that.
yes, 100%. It's in today's day and age on any facility, security has to be a hot topic.
Yes, it
Because
does.
we get,
Yes, it does.
on any given Sunday, you got thousands of people, and hundreds of little kids, which is our, what you want to protect in the first place. So,
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue into my next segment, because I want to talk to you about day-to-day operational realities. So I'm going
yes,
to ask you, walk us through a typical Sunday from your perspective. What are you looking for?
I am looking for out of the ordinary. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
been there enough. I'm an extrovert. I can talk to a fence post. So I feel that does that. And one of my best security tools, believe it or
Okay.
not, is them little dum-dum suckers. I'm known as the sucker guy. I
Okay.
hand I hand out over 5,000 of these suckers a year.
Wow.
And what it does now is I have this just happened the other day, is a lady came up to me. I gave her kids some suckers and she hugged me and she whispered in my ear that says, "Hey, I just want to let you know my husband and I are separated." It's
Ah.
building that relationship, and
Uh-huh.
that's what that does. But on a typical, I get there on Sunday and I check all my HVAC systems. I make sure,
Mm-hmm.
the doors are unlock automatically. And then I do a walk around. I check the
Okay.
doors,
Okay.
and everything else like that. Then I prepare for I'm very blessed that you mentioned earlier, I got about 40 guys on my team.
Mm-hmm.
So I prepare for that team coming in.
Okay.
And I check everything. I make sure the cafe people, the stoves are running right and everything, because we got a cafe. You're not getting bacon and eggs, but you're going to get some specialty coffee and a muffin.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I make sure that's there. I check to make sure, just check in with people. And the thing that I do on a Sunday is I've never had a problem, but I don't let my pastors or their wives park in the parking lot. I have them
Okay.
drive up and we park their cars for them. And then we bring them back up at the end of the day for them. I don't want
Okay.
them to be exposed out in the parking lot. That's a vulnerability.
Right.
And not that I've ever had any issues, but I'm not going to invite it.
That's
So,
smart. Very smart.
and then
Very smart.
as people coming in, I make sure that our team is not only watching for anything out of the ordinary. We're in the winter, so people
Mm-hmm.
coming with coats on their hands. Is there eye contact? Are they friendly? Did they blow by the ushers, and the greeters and all of this? And,
Right.
so that's what we're watching for. It's just, we know what our normal baseline is.
Right.
What is out of the ordinary? Is it the summer and someone's coming with a long sleeve shirt on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Backpacks get tricky because
Yes.
backpack nowadays are diaper bags. So you got to take a look at who's carrying the backpack.
Right. Right.
Is there
Absolutely.
they're going to give an indicator. So are their eyes shifting and everything? I'm out in front and I'm greeting people. I'm shaking hands. I'm making just conversation. If somebody blows by me, without really engaging or anything, it could go up with a flag,
Right.
and
Right.
we'll put a set of eyes on them,
There you go. There you
and
go.
then during the day, I am out there I'm greeting people, and
Mm-hmm.
everything else. Another thing that we do is I have some silent alarms in my church.
Okay.
So I make sure they're activated. They have power. I also have a button that locks all my doors in case something happens in the parking lot. We can prevent that from coming in.
And
So,
locked down.
and
Absolutely.
lock down just like that. So,
Oh, that's
and I,
that's beautiful, Mr. Ties. Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this. How do you handle multiple services or large events? Is it the same protocol? Does it shift a little bit? How do you handle that?
yes, we do. If we have an off Sunday event,
Mm-hmm.
different service. We have date night coming up where we got a
Okay.
comedian coming in. We'll have 900 people. I'll send out an email to the team and say, "Hey, I need 3 of us here. Who wants to volunteer and come up?" And I'm usually pretty successful at doing that, you
Okay.
know. But on scheduling our teams, I have 4 teams with 8 to 10 people on each team, roughly
Okay.
in that area. And I have 2 leads on that team. They're kind of the guys that like the leadership of it, and they'll do the weekly assignments and stuff
Okay.
like that. So we kind of were very good. And then that way it gives all the people, you're on a 4-week rotation. You serve once a month all morning.
Gotcha. That
And
makes
then,
sense. Okay.
yeah, at Christmas time, we'll use the same software where, I got 8 services. I got 12,000 people coming through my doors on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
So I send it out because we start the services at 9 a.m. and we end at 8 p.m. That gets long for anybody.
Absolutely.
So they can self-sign up for what services they want to serve for on the day before Christmas Eve, the 23rd, and on the 24th. It's part of our church community software system.
Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. Sounds like you have things pretty well in hand, Mr. Ties. Okay. So
Yes.
let me ask you this. So what systems help you stay proactive as opposed to reactive?
Well, I just went with called alert.com.
Okay.
It is they came onto my campus and they geofenced my whole campus. My campus is 55 acres.
Oh, wow. Okay.
On that campus, I also have a shelter for homeless teens.
Okay.
So what this does is on this app, like I said, my whole area, every building or every room, everything is all geofenced. So let's say somebody needs medical assistance, and you can have unlimited people on this app. They can hit medical assistance on this app and hit the room they're in, and it sends us a message, and we go right to that room.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's
It is. I found that out. I'm a Vikings fan, and they have this at the stadium, and I seen some guys, come to the area, and I was talking to them because an incident happened, some dummies fighting and stuff,
Okay.
And then my friend Simon also knows these guys, and he connected me with them, and it's one of these great apps. You can have volunteers up to many of them. I think currently I got 450 some people on this app right now. Wow. So when you hit my campus, you get a message that says you're in the geofencing area. So it doesn't work outside the area.
Right.
Only for myself, that's the administrator. And it has you need assistance, medical, and the red button, which is that's one that if you hit that, you don't have to dial 911. It's coming right, to the police. And I'm currently working with our local agency to see if they'll download the app, and it will come up on their computers if we ever need them in that incident.
Outstanding. Okay. Wow.
And it was not that expensive per year. I thought it was very, inexpensive and cheap like that.
Okay. So it's just an annual subscription?
It's an annual subscription.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to ask you the classic question, which is one of the main problems facing churches. How do you balance hospitality with oversight?
To say that I've been successful at that, I'd be lying to you. It doesn't come so much with a system. It comes with your people.
Oh,
okay. I always say on my teams, I don't want John Wayne. I don't want John Rambo. I want the guy that can come in and greet people and observe. We don't wear uniforms that say security, but we all have a breakaway lanyard with our name on it that's red around it that says security on it.
Okay.
It's a delicate balance to say to where I'm at, I look back to when I really started this team, and our senior pastor and I always say we didn't have arguments. We had intense fellowship. I love it. But I knew where I wanted to go, and this was my fault on the balance. Okay. I didn't understand the paradigm shift I was asking my pastor to change. And that was growing up. I'm in my mid 60s.
Okay.
And the local town that I was in, the churches never closed. They were up 24/7.
Wow. Okay.
Now, we're asking them to have protection. If something happens, I need you to stand down and follow us. It's a whole different paradigm shift,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
So that's where that balance comes in. And you can't be over authoritarian.
No, you
You
can't.
can't be. You got to be part of the fabric. You got to come up. I had a little girl come up to me yesterday. I gave her a sucker and she goes, "Mr. Jim, what do you do here?" You know,
That's beautiful,
I,
though. I like
it,
it.
so I got down on one knee and I says, we're not police officers, but we keep you safe. And then we also keep the building warm. And in the summer, we keep it cool and it's clean. And we make sure that you can enjoy, your Sunday school class without any interruptions.
That's right.
And then she said, thank you, and skipped away. I think
Wow.
she was more interested in getting a sucker, but,
All right. So now,
yeah.
and now I'll ask you another question that actually piggybacks on that. It's a leadership question. How do you keep your team alert without creating anxiety?
It's tough. It's
Mm-hmm.
tough. When you come in our front entryway, we have a reception desk, and that's kind of
Okay.
our headquarters for security on Sunday morning.
Okay.
They like to congregate, and catch up with their buddies and everything. It's just
Right.
it's a friendly reminder. It's also myself at being the leader. I'm a firm believer you can have all your philosophies on leadership. I'm a firm believer in how I lead by example.
Absolutely.
I'm out there. I'll talk to them. I'll encourage them and say, "Hey guys, let's get out here. Let's talk with the congregation and let's do that." But
Mm-hmm.
it's openness. If there is a threat, unfortunately, you have them. I
Mm-hmm.
bring them up to them, and I'll say, "Here, we had a young man that had a severe mental illness, and texting our pastor and emailing him, and I showed him the picture and I said, guys, this is our job. If he comes on campus, we have to, do our job. We
Right.
piggy him and we communicate with that." So that's probably one of the hardest tasks, is keeping them
Mm-hmm.
focused. But I keep reminding them we're not a police force,
That's
you
right.
know.
That's
So
right. And I said, and you alluded to this, preparedness should feel structured, but not stressful.
that's
So
right.
yes.
That's it's kind of like when you do church security, is unfortunately everybody goes to an active shooter situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I tell people we're going to play there, but we're not going to live there.
Right. Right.
So
Okay.
that is our philosophy. We work a lot on de-escalation,
Mm-hmm.
situation awareness. And I'm right now, my two goals for my security team this year is I want everybody to know the building like the back of their hand,
Mm-hmm.
because you can have 3 guns on you. If you don't know where room B102 is, you're carrying 3 boat anchors, you know,
Well said.
and
Yes.
and then
Yes.
de-escalation, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And we're also, another thing is I'm requiring all of our team going through basic life support
Mm.
and doing that. And part of knowing
Mm-hmm.
our building is, where's all the fire extinguishers? What's the address? If you got to call 911, what's the address?
Mm-hmm.
And what door number and everything else like that. And where are the medical bags located? Where are the AEDs located?
Right.
So it's knowing all of that, where in an emergency, seconds are so valuable.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's another segue into this next segment. I want to discuss some common gaps in churches. So, in a church of a similar size as yours, what security or facility gaps do you commonly see? Without
Well, one is
exposing anything
nope, nope, nope,
sensitive, but
nope.
yeah, okay,
One is budget and team structure on what you want to do. You
okay,
know, I have seen them all over where it's only 2, 3 guys and they're so burnt out and they're so stressed out. To teams where they're not functioning right because they don't have buy-in. There's a disconnect between the person in the security and the church upper management.
Right.
And,
Right.
you know, um, for me, I'm grateful that I have that. But when I first started off, I got a lot of pushback, not only from church, but also from congregation. Why do we need security? And,
Hmm.
you know, and God blessed me with that, with the ability to talk to people. And I jokingly say this, but I'm true, is when I went to school, because I'll tell them, well, there's a cop at all of our schools now.
Right.
There's a
Okay.
resource officer.
Okay.
I tell them, when I went to school, the only time the cops came was to get me. So now,
I love
so,
it.
with that, and I tell them, this is not, we're not a police force. We're here to structure to make sure that we can worship. Just read the news on your phone, or if you listen to it on TV, however you get your news. It's
Hmm.
if you listen to them, it's a dire world out there. It's not
Yeah.
the dire world. It's a
Right.
few guys that are out there, and
Hmm.
but that's why that disconnect, it takes time and it takes patience, and you got to prove yourself, because everybody, when you first start these, is watching you you know
Yes. Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
I had more pushback from the older guys in
Mm.
our church than the younger ones, and I kind of came to this conclusion, is the younger ones had police officers or a resource officer at their schools when they were
Mhm.
younger, and they
Okay.
had them at college all over. The older guys, we didn't have any of
That's
this,
true. That's a good point.
so with that, I take more care into that. And then when they see us responding also to a medical incident and
Hmm.
working at controlling the scene and getting the people and getting the help in, they're like, oh, there. So we had to prove ourselves time and
Okay.
time again.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. How do budget constraints shape decisions?
Well, we're going through right now a little bit of a budget constraint right now. Our senior pastor, after 31 years, bless his heart, he's retiring.
Okay.
So we're kind of in a transition. We have a new
Right.
pastor identified. And in the meantime, you know, some people are checking out other churches. Giving's a little tighter than what it
Hmm.
is. So
Hmm.
what I did on mine is I got together and I just created, we had one meeting, a training team on
Okay.
what we can do with our team, to say what can we do instead of bringing a lot of people in and doing that. So we do scenario training once a month, the third Thursday of each month,
Okay.
and we use Simon Asamoah's decision decks, and
Okay.
we pick 2, 3 scenarios. Like the other week, we just we practiced, went over the principles of de-escalation, and we
Hmm.
practiced what happened at City Church during that protest with Don Lemon and them guys
Right.
there.
Right.
What
Right.
would we do? And I'm finding out for adult men, because I only have a couple of ladies on our team, but for
Okay.
adult people, they don't want to sit in a classroom all day.
Hmm.
They want to be interactive training. And also, I have, you were a police officer.
Absolutely.
I have one of those Milo simulators
Okay.
that Simon and I have, and it's called Bold North Judgment Training. We travel around the country and we
Hmm.
train people on shoot, don't shoot. So I do
Okay.
that for my team, is that kind of stuff. And then we practice, like when I say the scenarios, is we'll practice two couples arguing over child support during a divorce. How do you de-escalate that? What do you do for that? We practice radio communications and go with that. I'm still going to do where we do our yearly qualifications at a
Right.
gun range, but also we go to another range where we go there and we have an instructor where we can shoot outside and we're moving more.
Okay.
It's not only practice, but it's a fun day. And
Okay.
as the church, we provide the ammo for that because we're shooting all day.
Wow.
So
Okay.
where that's the kind of budget things which I feel is a blessing, because it's making us a better team.
Okay. That sounds
So
good. So let me ask
yeah.
you this, Mr. Tice. How do you
Mhm.
communicate your facility and security needs to senior leadership? to let them know
Oh,
what you need.
hey, um, with myself being there, I don't sugarcoat anything and I don't write elaborate emails. I don't have that skill. I I
Okay.
so I am there and I'm explaining it to them. When I do my budget, I have a separate budget for security. And I'll
Okay.
sit down with my boss as the executive pastor
Okay.
and I'll say, here's what we got to do. Here's what I want to train in this year. And I leave a little bit in there, not a lot, because I don't want to just put things in there and just
Right.
say, oh, I have to spend up to that. You know, do I want to bring in, do I want to bring in Dr. Michael Brown to talk to us about
Right.
security? And yes, so that, it's just by being open and honest and letting them know
There you
where you
go.
are and also where do you want to be. And yeah. And another good thing that helped me was these grants that you get for church
Absolutely.
security.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's been 4 or 5 years, but it was before that. It was 19. I was successful at getting them grants for my campuses. I got 50,000 for each campus.
Oh,
So I
wow. Okay.
upgraded I upgraded a lot of infrastructure and stuff like that with that, brought in some training for that, and it worked out really well. That was a good blessing, and churches should be using that and going for that day in and day out.
Yes, because yes, the resources are there. But as I say, it's
Yeah.
not the information about the resources is not as widely publicized because I get asked all the time, is there any sort of grants? A lot of people just don't know.
No, they don't
So
know.
they don't
It's
know.
no. And I keep, even though I got it and I get thrown down to the lower part of it, on the priority because I already
Right.
received it, I still apply for it every year.
Absolutely. There you go.
Absolutely. Because it's up to 100,000 per campus.
Wow. Okay. And
So,
and every amount that you get helps. So yes,
well,
yes.
every amount,
Yeah.
so that helped really laid the foundation of where we're at.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. All right, we're going to pivot, Mr. Ties. I'm going to
Okay.
give you this segment. I'm going to give you a scenario. Okay.
Okay.
And this is dealing with an event night. Okay. Westwood Community Church is hosting a large evening event. Attendance is higher than normal. Additional entrances are open for convenience. Volunteers are stretched thin and parking is congested. What concerns you about this scenario immediately?
Oh boy. Well, first of all, is more entrances because now I gotta,
Yes,
do
yes.
that. I gotta do that. So, you know, for me, what I would do there is I would put my team, because in that scenario is really what we're coming to is I don't have enough people to cover all the entrances
Right,
to
right.
observe. So I would cover the front desk and I would go on my computer and I would call up all my cameras on there at the front desk and have myself or appoint someone to also watch some of these other entrances for obvious, you know?
Okay, okay.
And then second of all, because I don't want people frustrated out in the parking lot trying to find parking.
Right, right.
That would be a day that I wouldn't care if they parked on the grass.
There you go.
I mean,
Right, right.
let's go. Get into church, get into the event, let the Holy Spirit work on you at whatever event it may be, or
Mhm.
hear the message. Let's not worry about that. The bigger part is afterwards, the congestion there and
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
else. And then once the majority of the people come in, I would shut the other doors that we wouldn't have to, you know. And
Right,
then
right.
I'd ask for some help by some other people to help go outside if it's not 10 below, because I'll never get a volunteer up in Minnesota to go out and do that. But if to go out there and help me direct people to the right entrances to
Okay,
do that. Because a lot of people come into your events, like on mine, my building is designed that it's distinct. You know where our entrances are.
okay,
So a
okay.
lot of them coming to the big event, the majority of them are probably going to be people that have already come there. So
Gotcha.
it's the few stragglers. So get the parking team engaged and say, hey, put up some signage hey, we know we're going to have, an extraordinary amount of people, that happens on Christmas Eve, you
Right,
know,
right.
like I said earlier, we get 10 to 12,000 people in one day, you know,
Yeah.
and everything else like that. So we make sure, before them events with our systems and how we do things, we're going to know what we're going to need ahead of time.
Okay.
We've been down these events before and
Right,
stuff like
right.
that.
It's not
So
your first rodeo.
no, no. But in the past when we had that, people have parked up on the grass.
Mhm.
They parked along the fire lanes and stuff like that. So, you know,
And
we're
you
very good on that.
raised a good point, Mr. Ty. Sometimes, okay, you have to be able to make adjustments and
Oh,
allowances in order to accommodate special events.
yeah.
That's a
You know,
very good point.
it is, you can't, there's doing things right and then there's doing the right thing.
There you go.
It's,
Right,
you know,
right.
if I got somebody searching for a parking spot and church is going on or this event's going on and I have an open in a handicap spot, park there. I'll make sure you don't get a ticket. You
Right.
know,
There you go.
because
There
look,
you go.
let's get you in. That's our main event. That's our main thing. Let's
Right,
get you in. I don't want you frustrated. I don't want to get a bad name. Oh,
right,
I went to this great thing at Westwood Church. I couldn't find a parking lot and it's all over social media
right,
and
right.
everything else like
Absolutely.
that. So hospitality is, we go above and beyond on hospitality,
There you
so
go. Understood. Understood. So let me ask you this. How does lighting, traffic flow, and staging impact risk?
oh boy, here's a good one is
Hmm.
I worked for years to get my building was built in 2003
Okay.
and I had my parking lot for today's standards was really dim when you look at new modern LED lights, you
Hmm.
know. So I went through and my electric company gave me a bunch of rebates and everything else like that. And I put
Okay.
LED lights in my parking lot, fairly inexpensive. The payback was under a year on the energy savings and the labor
Wow.
savings. So
Okay.
it was really good. It it sets the mood. When
Hmm.
people come into your church, they come into your building, as soon as they hit your property, if they're new or even if they're old or they're bringing a guest, they're evaluating you.
Yes, they are.
Are they
Yes.
evaluating you? Oh, look at there. There's a fallen tree outside. Do
Hmm.
they not keep maintenance? Is your parking lot dirty? Is it lit up? Do I
Hmm.
have am I greeted? So all of that comes into play for the security and the facilities.
Okay. That's true. That's true. You raised a good point. Now, the last thing on this scenario, say an emergency occurred at this event. What in
Yep.
your mind would determine whether response to the emergency was orderly or chaotic?
Okay. Let's say in this scenario, because it could happen, my
Mhm.
building's just under a couple 100,000 square feet. It could
Okay.
happen anywhere, but
Right.
let's go under the assumption it happens in the worship center,
Okay.
you know?
Mhm.
Okay. Because that's where most likely where all the people are going to be, right?
Right. Correct.
So they're in my worship center. The first thing we're going to do is evaluate where it's at. And
Mhm.
then we have a thing that we do that I call it's controlling the scene, where the people around us, we got to politely ask, let's say it's a medical. Okay,
Right.
let's go that's you know, more incident than a happened than something violent.
Right.
So it's a medical. So then we have to evaluate it, in our mind. Is it a younger person? Is it a middle-aged person? Is there any obvious conditions that would get us right there? And
Mhm.
then instantly we're making the call that, oh, we can handle this, or we're dialing 911. For the most part, we're dialing 911.
Right. Right. Right.
And then we're going to get them comfort. And we have um, a lot of good people around us. And every
Mhm.
time I've had this, I've had someone come about and say, hey, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, let me help you. And what we do as the security is we come into where we're an aid to the situation. We're not going to control it. And
Okay.
we're controlling the scene where we literally a few years ago had two medicals on Easter Sunday. And our
Mm.
pastor preaching never knew one of them happened.
See, that's good work
So,
right there. That's good
well,
stuff.
that's a really good team. That's a good
Hmm.
team that took that there and did that and everything else, that went with it. But it's not coming in. It's coming in under a calm demeanor and going there. And the ushers will point it out to us and we'll go over there and we'll make a quick evaluation. But 99% of the time, we're dialing 911 in the first
Absolutely.
place. I want the cavalry to come,
Okay.
and everything else like that. And then that's how we'll do that with an emergency. If it's a dispute, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, that's a different ball game. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Ties, in our closing segments, we're going to deal with leadership, stewardship, and integration. So, I have a
Okay.
reflection question for you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. What mindset shift helped you most in integrating facilities and security?
I had to do an ego check.
Oh,
It
wow.
was it
Tell me
wasn't
more.
about me.
Mm,
It was about globally looking at the church when I integrate them is what is the best outcome. I'm not going to win every war. I'm not going to win every battle, but what is the best for the church?
there you
Because
go.
when I do facilities, I want to keep everything running. I want my systems up to date. I want zero surprises. Same mindset in security. I want my guys to be aware. I want them to
Hmm.
be trained, and I don't want surprises.
There you
But what do you
go.
do when them surprises collide? That is what you got to do. And with that, you got to lead, and you got to lead firmly but gently. Because when you're doing church security, not only do you might have to go physical, but you might have to stop yourself instantly and go, this guy doesn't need hands on him. He needs prayer.
There
And you
you
got to
go.
stop and pray
That's a
with this guy
that's a great
or
point.
individual or everything. So you always got to be alert and be able to pivot constantly.
All right. Right. The power of prayer. We underestimate that
Oh,
sometimes in our
oh,
field.
no
Like you
doubt.
said, we're always thinking about the physical. Yes,
It is.
yes, yes.
It
All right.
is.
So let me ask you this. What advice would you give a church that treats security as secondary to operations?
You know, I run into this more than you think
Hmm.
when I go around with my Bold North training, or we had the tragic thing here with Ascension, that shooting here in
Yes,
Minneapolis, and my
yes.
phone for whatever reason rang off the hook. I bet you I talked to 75, 80 churches over that span. Is
Hmm.
you have to get over the mindset that it's not going to happen here.
Absolutely.
That is one of
Absolutely.
the biggest misconceptions that people have. And then it's starting with what you have.
Hmm.
Okay. If I would start over again, I would not introduce firearms as quickly as I did. I
Okay.
would make sure that I have had better escalation, maybe a non lethal and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Because
Okay.
for a while there, and I had to backtrack, it became about guns. And I don't want that.
Right.
That's a
Right.
secondary. I pray every Sunday and every day that I go in that I don't ever have to use this thing.
Right.
I got to use
Absolutely.
this up here first,
That's right.
and everything else like that. So, with that is getting on the same page with your pastor. If they're not totally on board, if they're not totally there, come to a compromise. Go, can we start a team for observation? Can we have radios? Can we have this? And let's start and let's build with what you have. It doesn't have to go up to, I've been doing this 15 years. I
Hmm.
still remember the first Christmas. People came in and I handed them a radio and I said, anything happens, call me. I'll be out here. It was just, so, and understanding your pastor, have
Hmm.
some very good conversations of here's what I want to do, here's where we should really go that I feel, and come up and start that dialogue. maybe start a safety security advisory team to get going, to get traction.
Right,
A lot
right,
of churches, they'll get somebody and they'll say, we're going to start a team, but they don't support it. They don't feel part of anything,
right.
and I felt them. I felt a lot of times I was pushing a boulder up a hill, but a
Hmm.
lot of time that was my bad perspective, knowing the end goal where I wanted to go and not having the right mindset back then to go. I gotta crawl, then I gotta walk, and then I gotta run. So
All right, that's true. That's true. So I want a final takeaway from you, Mr. Ties. What one leadership habit strengthens both facility management and security oversight? One
you
leadership
know,
habit.
one leadership is know your team. You know,
Hmm.
my team is I'm getting some young guys, but they're older. So if I find out that they're going through something, I will follow up with a text. I
Hmm.
will greet them. I want it to be a family. I want
Right.
it to be that, hey, we can trust each other, guys, and we got to pray for each other. We have a couple guys going through cancer. One guy, a couple of them are going through divorces. So it's
Hmm.
connecting the resources. I don't have to do it all. I have one young guy in our team that's going through a divorce, and I know from talking with another guy, he just went through it. So I connected these two because they're pretty close to the age limit, and now
Hmm.
they have a friendship there. So we have, yesterday is a prime example of what our team is like. I
Okay.
had 2, 3 guys come in and say, "Hey, you got enough people?" Because they came into church, they're on a different team, but
Right.
they asked if we needed help and if I can serve. I said, no, we're good for today, but keep your head on a swivel. And that just
Yeah.
comes from atmosphere, and that comes from my team leads, that comes from our leadership,
Yes.
from down from our pastor and everything like that.
Relationships, man. That's right. That's right.
It's a key. It's a
Oh,
key.
all right. All right. Well, one of the things I wanted to get across with this episode with you, Mr. Ties, is that security is not separate from operations. It's woven into them. And
Yep.
when facilities and security align, preparedness becomes culture and not just reaction.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
so Mr. Ties, I want to thank you for being the
Hmm.
guest on our episode. You did an outstanding job. You dropped a lot of nuggets, and I appreciate it.
You bet.
All right,
You
just
bet.
stand by 1 second, sir, while I close. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for joining us on this episode of the Faith Secure podcast. If today's conversation helped bring clarity to your role as a church leader, a security or safety manager, please share it with somebody who needs to hear it. You can connect with Faith Secure on all the social media platforms. You can also reach out to us directly at mdbconsultingagency.com/Faith Secure. Until next time, stay watchful, prayerful, and prepared. Take care and God bless.